Coach, a few weeks through camp and preparation for North Carolina. How are you feeling about the team right now?
Yeah. I think today was really kind of our first day where we kind of broke camp. In other words, went against some scout team stuff today. We tried to do as much good on good as we possibly could and keep it competitive and physical. And really, I was pleased with yesterday. We had a really hot day yesterday, and I thought our guys. I thought it was probably the best practice we had in camp, honestly. They were really did a good job mentally. When they got tired, we continued to execute and play disciplined. And practice 4, it was really, really hot, and we had a bunch of false starts and bad snaps and offsides and kind of undisciplined stuff, and we didn't see any of that yesterday. So I was really encouraged, by the way the guys focused and executed and did their job. So it was, like I said, it was an encouraging day yesterday, but I feel good about it. I mean, I think you always want more time, and you always want to make sure you cover all the bases, and every scenario and situation that could unfold. But I think our guys are in a good frame of mind. I think for the most part, we're healthy. I thought we came out of camp, in pretty good shape that way, and so just excited to, start being able to look at an opponent now and start to focus in on playing game 1.
What's the one biggest thing or things you feel like you learned about the team throughout fall camp?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of what I just talked about, just the terms of, how mature is this group? We thought coming in, it had a chance to be a mature group. How dedicated is the group? How focused is the group? Are the guys willing to do things that other people won't be willing to do? And I think this group has done that. So that's probably been the encouraging thing that I've seen, is just the dedication from this group to be great. That's always a question mark, how they're going to handle adversity, how they're going to handle the highs and lows of camp. And it was a very steady camp. I just thought the guys went out and practiced hard, and we know we have a very clear understanding of the areas that we need to get better in, and I think we have improved in those areas, and and we get to go test it here in 11 days.
It's August 19th, I think, and I was driving over here. It said 75 degrees.
Yeah.
So this has been the weirdest summer I've
ever called. Yeah, it's strange. Yeah.
So in terms of doing what you want to do practice-wise, in light of the fact that it's now 105, have you been able to do a little bit more? Has it adjusted how you do a practice?
Yeah, it has. I mean, we've been able to go outside more. I mean, we practice in the mornings, and it's been, as you said, really mild in the mornings, especially. It's gotten hotter in the afternoons. And yesterday was kind of a hot, humid day. And you want to have enough of that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you want your guys to have to deal with that and what that feels like, and but you don't want too much of it. And so there's a fine line there, and I think the weather has been incredibly cooperative just in terms of what we wanted to get done. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we've been able to stay outside a lot, which has led to more quality reps and staying off the turf, and I think that helps you stay healthy and helps with the wear and tear on your body. So I've been happily, kind of honestly surprised at how mild the summer's been, and it looks like that it's supposed to get hot again, I think Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, and then I think it's starting to taper off a little bit. But our guys are in a good frame of mind just in terms of going out and practicing through things, and we're going to continue to need to have some hot days just to continue to test their will.
A lot of competition out there, Coach. Are there any key positions that you guys are still evaluating pretty closely?
Yeah. I mean, I think our defensive front. I think there's been some guys that have stepped up here in the last week to 10 days and have created some battles for not only starting jobs but backup jobs. Who's going to be the 2s? Who's going to be the 3? How we're going to divide the reps going in the first game? I think we feel better about that group, and we needed some guys to come in and improve, and I think they have. And so I've been very encouraged with that group. in particular, I think the same thing's going on with the offensive line. I think we feel good about it, and a lot of guys, and trying to stay off the scout team right now and stay with the twos. I mean, that's a heck of a battle to see who the twos are going to be and who's going to be on the scout team. And we're going to try to rotate guys because we feel like that there's good enough players on the scout team potentially to be able to help us. And so we've got to manage that stuff. The scout team should be the best that we've had, just in terms of, size and strength and ability to go in there and make the starters better. So I'm encouraged by that probably as much as anything else. But yeah, there's the running back position. A lot of guys right now, I think, performing at a high level in that room as well. So just encouraged by what I've seen from those groups.
With Kavori and Barnes in particular, he seems like he's been taking a lot of the workload with the ones. I guess, what are you guys seeing from him over the summer, and how has the guys earned your trust?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing we want to see is guys that run downhill and finish runs and play physical. Not only carrying the ball, but also in pass protection. He's been consistent catching the ball coming out of the backfield. He's assignment sound. He knows what to do. He's got a lot of experience. He's been a really productive guy in the past. So, he's been what we thought he was going to be, and I think honestly a little bit better. He's a hard guy to tackle, and I think that's something that we haven't necessarily had here in the last couple of years is a real physical downhill runner. And so there's been some guys that have emerged. Nate Palmer's done a good job. Trent Battle, I think we know exactly what we're going to get from Trent. Jeremy Payne's been really, really consistent. And again, John Denman, I think, has been a surprise. And Joe Pitchford has done good things as well. So really like the group, like the fact that we are much more physical in that room than we have been in the past, and we're going to need to be.
As pro football's evolved, we've seen fewer and fewer preseason games. College football doesn't have a preseason game.
Right.
Do you need one? Would you like to have one?
Well, yeah, our deal is different. We don't have to make cuts, and so I think that's the one thing that's kind of unique about the NFL. I don't think we do. I think you're going to look around college football week 1, and you're going to see, good quality games and teams that are ready to go play. And so I think that, I think the current system works just fine. Would teams be a little bit more ready if they did do that? Maybe potentially. But, like I said, I think that you're going to look around week 1 and go, man, that's a good football game, and those are two good teams playing against each other, and those two teams are ready to play.
When it comes to all this roster turnover now, has it made evaluating for week 1, week 2? I don't want to say impossible, but really, really hard.
Yeah, I know it's hard. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, especially anytime you have a new coach someplace, it's hard, because you don't know from a scheme standpoint what you're going to see. And so that was always hard. That was hard 20 years ago, because you're like, well, okay, what's this guy going to do, and how is he going to adapt to these players, and then all this stuff. But then you could look at that team in the past and go, okay, well, at least you know what the players are going to be like. Well, now you don't have any idea what either is going to be like. You try to go and you look at all the tape that you can look at of the players playing where they were before, but are they going to play that same position? Are they going to be asked to do those same things? Are they going to play with those techniques? Who's going to be the starter and who's not going to be the starter? I mean, just all the stuff. And so there's a lot of unknowns, and it does make it, it's always been difficult, but I think it makes it much more difficult. Yep. Yeah, there's a million. Yeah, I think the big thing for us is just, I think we got caught up in that hype a little bit with that Colorado thing. We have to make sure it doesn't happen this go around. There's going to be a lot of talk about this game as well, and we've got to handle it better, just in terms of going out there and focusing. And it's interesting in 22, we had that run and we played for so long that we had to give our players, we basically, you think about it, we went straight from the national championship pretty much to school. And our players never had a break. So we had to give those guys some kind of break, physically, mentally, academically, everything. And so we started 3 weeks later in our strength and conditioning. We felt like we were behind there. We felt like we were behind going into spring football. We felt like we were behind coming out of spring football. We felt like we were behind in fall camp. We had a lot of new players, a lot of transfers. Trying to get the cohesiveness that we wanted was difficult for us to do. I think going into 23 season, we never ever felt settled, not one time. I never did. It just seemed like there was just so many moving parts, and it was kind of uncharted territory in a lot of different ways. With this group, I don't necessarily get that vibe with this group. We have enough of the strong leaders. We have enough of the guys that set the temperature in the room, and the other guys have to meet that. And that group in 23, there just wasn't a lot of those guys left, and we just didn't feel like we ever had the kind of leadership that you want to have, the cohesiveness. We just, like I said, we felt like we were playing catch up all the time. And now I think we're kind of in a different place with our program.
Because of social media, just social media, forget transfer portal, just social media, kids' ability to consume anything about what people are saying about them.
Right.
Does that make them any part of the coach today in 25 than when you were at La Tech or before then?
It's a good question. I don't really know. It's interesting. Social media, I think most of our guys are involved in some sort of social media. I think some guys spend a lot of time on social media and a lot of time worried about it. A lot of guys don't. They're on social media for something else, maybe non-football related or whatever, you know what I mean? And so I think there's just so many guys that their interactions with social media are so different that it's hard to know that it's a big trend one way or the other. Guys are aware of what's going on out there. Now, as you know, with everything regarding college football, there's so much misinformation, so much stuff out there that's true, not true, who knows, and I think sometimes those guys may see things that I saw this on Twitter, or I saw this on Instagram or whatever. And, I think those guys have probably learned now that they realize that, a lot of stuff they see is not true or not accurate. The good thing about this team is that we're not getting a lot of attention. And so I think that's a good thing for us and our players. I don't think there's a lot of people out there that are particularly high on this team right now. And so, I think that they consume a lot of stuff about other people maybe, but there's not a lot of talk about us right now, which I think is a good thing.
Two guys I want to ask about, Coach, is Connor and Jonathan Dykes. With Marcus being kind of limited and Devin, they've gotten a ton of reps. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Connor's gotten better. He's a big guy inside. He's physical. I think he's playing with confidence. I think Connor's probably always been a little bit better player than he thought he was. You know what I mean? I think that's been one of the things he needed to do is just grow his confidence and because he's a big, strong, athletic guy. He can move well for a 6'5", 300-pound plus guy. And so I think he's improved. I think his technique's better. But I think the biggest thing probably that's happened to him is he's just gotten more confidence. And then as you said, Bax has been incredibly productive. I think one of the more productive guys in fall camp. He's a guy that's been here. He's paid his dues. He's he loves football. He studies hard. It's important to him. He cares. And he's a very athletic, capable player and a guy that's just gotten an opportunity and made the most of it.
Another guy that I think had a really good camp was Kylan Jackson. What did you see from him there?
Yeah. Kylan's been the guy to me, again, probably one of the biggest improvements from spring to now. When you came out of spring football, you saw flashes, but you couldn't always rely on him to do what he was supposed to do, how he was supposed to do it. And I think those concerns have started to dissipate. He's a guy now that does what he's supposed to do. He still flashes. He's long, he's athletic. He's got great instincts. He's got a feel for making plays, and he's doing play in, play out. He's doing things right now. He's playing with the right technique. He's communicating. He's lining up. He's doing the things that good players do.
Coach, I want to ask about special teams real quick. On the scrimmage, there was a couple mishaps, and missed field goals. Is there any concern right now?
No, not really. I mean, I think we when you look at our numbers in fall camp, you know, Kyle's been over 80%, on field goals. I'd like to get him to 90. We've had a couple of things up front from, some changes up front in terms of our field goal protection and personnel. And I think it's, you know, uh, resulted in a couple of mishaps, but it's not anything, and we're always concerned about it. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're always concerned about your kickers and your ability to go out, especially early in the season, and execute at a high level on special teams. But I feel like that those issues have been addressed, and I feel like that's going to be a solid unit for us.
I want to follow up on
Yeah.
that. In 22, obviously, your kicking game was great.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And I'm sure you've been hostage to kickers before that. And come up with that position and success in that. It's just lucky, guys. The guy has that year.
Yeah. I mean, when you can send somebody out there and consistently exactly what you're going to get, I mean, it's a huge bonus for your team. It just changes the way you approach the game and how you deal with situations and how you call a game on third down, how you handle end of game situations. All those things a lot of that's determined by, the confidence you have in your punter or your kicker, depending on what the situation is. So, yeah, I mean, you want to feel good about those guys because it does, there's a chain of events that happen when you are very comfortable with those guys, and then again, it affects all those decisions that have an impact on that chain of events and how the end of game situations unfold and all those type of things. And so, we still have plenty of time, I think, to address any kind of concerns that way. But I do think, we all have a lot of confidence in Kyle and his ability to go out there and make kicks. And he's a really, really talented guy. And what you want to do, he kind of had a subpar year for him last year. And what you want to do is want to get better, and you want to go out and make kicks in big situations last year. And we had opportunities to make some kicks in some big games that were hard kicks, and we didn't make them. And so the goal is to get them made this year. Okay, thank you, guys.
I kind of say just starting off in the workouts. A lot of it's player led. The players are getting the sheets, reading out the workouts, what we got to do for that day. Also, just in the locker room stuff, just kind of relying on the older guys just to get the younger guys prepared for what we got to do, just pre-practice stuff and just getting your body ready before the actual practice. So just kind of getting the older guys just to show the younger dudes what's like expected and what you should be doing here. I'm feeling a whole lot confidence in defense. I feel like people are just like real comfortable in the roles, I feel like people are going to be flying around, playing fast, physical, and just the way we want to be. I feel like I've been doing good with my progress. I feel like the weight's been helping me out a lot, kind of with that run game stuff and just fighting with the O-lineman. But, it's time to actually show it in games now. Not really personnel-wise, just because all the new players, but kind of got a little sense just off the OC and stuff he kind of does. But the first game, coach has been saying to us, and even I feel like the past first games is really more so just about us ourselves and just knowing the defense and just playing the best we can and not really focusing on the opponent. Me and him are good. We talk a lot, pre-snap, after snap. I feel like I have a real great connection with him. Just as like a friendship wise that I can talk to him anything about. And like you said, we do have the same play style, so I feel like pretty much he can make any play I can make. So it's good to rely on somebody like that. Yeah, it's definitely better to have those like not as hot days, but I kind of like the hotter days, just because when we're not playing in Texas, feel a whole lot better and you don't kind of really have to deal with the heat. So it's kind of like making practice harder. So then once you get to games, that's easy. For sure. Connor's like grown a lot just as like a off the field, on the field player, just because, first couple years, he wasn't playing. And even when he was kind of getting some tick, he really wasn't doing what he was supposed to. But now I feel like he's finally got some confidence in himself that he can go out with the ones and produce. So, it's good just to have a big body up there clogging the gaps and makes it easier for us backers. I really don't get too much into that. Just kind of take it for what it is because the year that we went to the Natty, we weren't even ranked preseason, and then the following year we were ranked before the season. Then we ended up not even going to a bowl game. So, all that preseason stuff really doesn't mean too much. Just hopefully we'll be ranked by the end of the season. Yeah, he's for sure a tough running back to deal with. Kind of one of those things where it's like, you're going against him and Hoover and all the other good guys on offense. So, when it's time to come play, you're not going to see much better backs than him. I appreciate y'all.
It's pretty cool. I really don't know how to put it. I had that was my plan. To just try to get more, get more, get more, and never settle. And so just to see it come to fruition has been awesome. I'm feeling great. You're gonna always be a little banged up going against a physical defense like ours, but at the end of the day, just got to get some recovery, some treatment, and I've been fine. It's amazing. I feel like that's been a major part of shaping my game this year from last year. Just feeding my body the right things and building the muscles in the right way. Kaz and those guys have been great in that area, just telling us what to put into our body, what our body needs and stuff like just, and then able to have those things, just not saying it, but providing it for us. And so it's a, from where I'm coming from, it's a major difference. Nah, Kaz likes my bigger style, my weight. So, clearly he doesn't want me to get too big, but I really don't have too many limitations. I just limit myself because I want to be in a certain range, just filling it out from spring to fall and going through the season. I kind of like where I'm at, and so I just kind of want to stay in that area. As far as in the running back room, we got a lot. I feel like we got a well-rounded room with guys that can do some of everything. We got some downhill backs, we got some elusive back, we got some catching out the backfield backs. And it's just being able to play side by side and just work off one another. It's like you get a mixture of everything, so you really don't know what you're gonna get hit with. Uh, yeah, I do have something to prove, but not to anybody else, but to myself that that I can do what I think I can do. Really, I don't try to let outside words or people's opinion get to me. I got a great support system at home. My family always talking to me, supporting me, giving me motivation. So really the chip on my shoulder to prove to myself that I am who I think I am. Nutrition. Like I say, one thing that's been, I feel like a major setback for me is, over the past couple of years, when I first got to UTSA, my body weight was 185. And so now I'm looking at 220. So just being able to get in a program that's where I'm working at this actual weight and nutrition at a very high level, that's been a major part of it. So, and then being able to the summer workouts and things that we've done, they have helped me with my explosiveness. So I do feel like I'm back to where I want it to be, so just applying it on the field is what it is. Yes, sir. Got a lot of friends and family talking about the games coming up. I try to keep it tuned out, but when you come from a small town like that, it's just hard not to. Everyone's like family, so I got to respond to everyone. Thank you.